What's up, guys? And welcome here to the ESL Major League Americas. I am Solid Jake.
And I'm Kubi.
And, well, we've got a bit of a late schedule change here.
A light schedule change?
Late.
Oh, late. Okay, I was going to say light. That's half the schedule. Jeez. Tell us about it, Jake. What's going on?
Well, originally it was supposed to be Heroes Hype versus, I was going to say Team Solomid, but that's actually Temple Storm. And, well, that is going to be a forfeit on the side of Heroes Hype, as we don't know their situation. I assume they have a player that cannot make it. So they are forfeiting out.
It's unfortunate.
But instead, since LunatiK joined in the league, replacing Vortex pretty late, we have a bonus game out of them.
That's right. LunatiK, of course, being Vivid Gaming. I think that's what they were called as of last week. So the game that we casted last week versus Maelstrom is, you can consider them to be LunatiK now because they are LunatiK Esports. So that's exciting. That's going to be our first game, first series of the night, and then we're going to move on to Barrel Boys versus Murlocs. So Murlocs get the exciting doubleheader tonight.
Yeah, they got the back-to-back
The stamina.
match. That's tough. That's
So
tough.
if you enter Kings, you know all about the stamina.
Oh, goodness.
Because that was a long day.
10 and a half hour cast.
We went the full mile for the double set on the grand finals.
Kubi, I was cutting.
That was pretty exciting.
I was cutting the VODs.
Yeah.
The grand finals, including the breaks between games and including the drafts. Guess how long it was?
4 hours.
Just about.
Wow.
3 hours and 47 minutes.
That's a lot of heroes for one series between two. They probably played so many games.
Yeah.
Jeez.
1, 2,
Seven
7 games.
7 games.
Temple Storm versus Maelstrom. 7
What a
games in
series,
one
though.
day. One tournament.
What a set of series. Fun times.
Laser beams.
Laser beams. Well, we're already running a bit late, so we should probably jump into this.
We will in just a second.
Oh, am I jumping the gun? Too much jumping? All right.
Before we get into today's games, let's take a look at the current standings here in the ESL Major League Americas.
Look at that.
We can see the current standings. We have Temple Storm sitting at 9 points with a 3-0 score. Barrel Boys also 3-0 at the 9 points, so they are tied right now. Team Heroes Hype, they've got 4 points. They're 1-1, and then Tuark Iliad 1-2.
Well, I guess actually we haven't. Did we put in the forfeit loss yet for Heroes Hype? That might actually be something we need to update.
This is strictly prior today.
Prior to today. Okay.
So
all right.
they'll actually get bumped down. But
All right, moving further down, we of course have Tuark Iliad. They're sitting at 1-2, along with Cloud9 Maelstrom, also 1-2, and Evil Geniuses. And to round it out, we have of course LunatiK. They haven't played all of their catch-up games yet, so that is sort of a temporary standing for them. We'll see where they end up after they play in those games, and then Murlocs Inc. rounding it out at 0-2.
So Murlocs Inc. They've got to prove themselves. They've only got that 1 point.
They do, but they could bring themselves right up to the middle of the road here if they perform well tonight. So.
Well, before we get into this game, let us introduce our teams.
That's right.
And on the first half, we do have LunatiK.
And we have Ivy Slime, Lex Uther, Daihu, Ego, and Silal.
And on the other half, we do have our Murlocs Inc. with Spanker, Atlanta, Clown Caterpillar, and Matt Timmy. Matt Timmy is actually in the void. He is actually a being of darkness because his hair is part of that background. Like there's. That's a very dark room. Matt Timmy, turn your lights on next time you take a picture, my friend. Turn the lights on.
Call out. Jake, the professional photographer.
All right, we can tell the players we are good to go. And the players seem to be ready for the draft, so we should be getting in just a moment. Cubus Maximus. Are you excited, Maximus? To the Maximus?
To the Maximus. Sure, I'll give you that much.
Nay.
I am excited. Nay. Have we seen these guys play anytime recently? Not to my knowledge. Of course, LunatiK Esports is a relatively new team, not necessarily to the scene. We haven't seen so much of them, at least in terms of the large tournaments on the weekends. So a lot of what we're going to be casting for you guys versus these teams is going to be some new matchups in terms of how LunatiK approaches all of these super top-tier teams, right?
It's true.
Should be fun.
They are well aware of the Asmodean meta. They apparently hate it, and they ban Asmodean out.
I see that.
Right and quick.
Right and quick. We've seen quite a bit of Asmodean appearing in the meta, like you were mentioning, and on specific maps, much stronger than others. Cursed Hollow is, I would say, a middle-of-the-road map for Asmodean.
Yeah.
Mainly because of the spacing between the lanes. Asmodean benefits quite a bit if he can have two of those lanes that are close together. Dragonshire comes to mind. We don't catch a lot of games on Haunted Mines, so I actually don't know. I actually would say probably not, just because of how much focus there is on the skulls. But what other maps do we see?
Sky
Temple
it's really Sky
is
Temple and Haunted Mines that are
kind of
meh for him. Yeah, they're not. They're the two lesser.
First of all, Garden of Terror, of course. You know that the game is going to go on for a long time.
Right.
Strong there, very strong there.
Yeah. So, but we are uncursed, like you said, kind of the middle of the road map. And then there's an Uther ban. So does LunatiK go
What's that
for?
about?
Well,
what's that? Usually, if we see an Uther ban, it's with Rhaegar on the other side. Sometimes I would say Rhaegar is more often banned out.
Yeah, and you're going to see LunatiK first pick Rhaegar as a result. So the question is, A, did they really want to force the hand? And B, do they have a strat planned out for Malfurion? Like, is that their style? Now, they pretty much, I don't want to say they have to pick up Malf, but I'd be surprised if they do not pick up Malf here.
They have some choices. Like you were saying, when you ban out Uther, and it's the second ban and the first ban not being Rhaegar.
Right.
You have to take into the contingency that Rhaegar will be banned. Now, that said, they have to expect that they're going to get a lower tier support. And they probably have a couple plans. Okay, if we want to run Lily, if we want to run Brightwing, if we want to run Malf. They can probably work with all of those. Therefore, they're not going to heavily prioritize. Now, the only thing they have to watch out for is double support. Rhaegar Malf.
Right.
And as long as they have a way to deal with that, I'm okay with them picking up top tier damage. In this case being Illidan and Nazeebo.
Yeah, a lot of teams, I mean, Nazeebo having a near 100% pick ban rate. Very powerful hero. And Illidan has, in this last patch, he is actually just kind of terrifying. He's very hard to kill.
Skyrocketed quite a bit in popularity.
So very strong pickups in the damage, but
the burst meta has slowed down considerably. Those heroes that used to be picked up very often, Falstad coming to mind, that were all about bursting. Tyrael diving in, and then the Hinterland's Blast with the overdrive. That was a huge deal, and the reason that Illidan just didn't work out before was mainly because of that. It was just so easy to burst a hero down. That's why Rhaegar wasn't as popular, because, well, you can't get that nicely timed ancestral healing if the hero dies within 2 seconds. It's just impossible to time. It's impossible to react. So now that those heroes have been tweaked, tuned in such a way that they're not quite as bursty, we're seeing heroes that were quite a bit unconventional 3 months ago. Illidan, ETC, Rhaegar. Slower fights are happening. Double support is popping up now. These are all things that you can expect to see in these drafts.
Well, you mentioned ETC, and there he is, and they're thinking about their next pick. And they're going to go for Tassadar. So they're going for the middle of the road. Not showing their hand. This is very common.
We saw quite a bit of this in the finals for Kings.
Yep.
Between Maelstrom and Tempo Storm. They took a lot of drafts that were, up until the 4th and 5th pick, incredibly neutral, not showing a particular style. They weren't saying, we're not necessarily going for double support, we're not going for burst. When I say burst, I mean like a lot of chain stuns, dive in. They're not going for any of those, so they're not showing it right away. And oftentimes, even up till the 5th pick, there was no overarching theme to the team. Just going for the 3 assassin, tank, and support.
Yeah, you're right.
We may see more of that in the future, depending on how advanced the drafting meta between the two teams develops. And when you have a situation like 7 games, that has a lot of time to develop. This, it's only a maximum of 3. Maybe not so much, but we'll keep an eye on it.
Right. Okay, so immediately I'm just going to say I really like what Murlocs is doing to work with this, because Stitch's Malf Zebo, ton of synergy there, with the roots, the hooks, and then you just have this crazy frontliner of Illidan, but they still have to worry about this hyper sustain style that is available out of LunatiK, because Hammer is still on the table, and I really expect LunatiK to pick up Hammer for that back liner, and potentially just Vala as well, because that's a rock solid composition for them as well. So much damage available with those 2 ranged assassins. Tassadar providing the healing ward, the shielding, and then the ancestral on top of that. So
I'm looking at Murlocs Inc., the rest of their comp, who their final pick is going to be. I wouldn't actually be too... We've seen them run Illidan and Sonya in the past.
I expect, Kerrigan's actually an option too. I think Sonya makes more sense.
Yeah. In terms of diving in, getting
Blowing
into the thick
off
of things in the fight. So they could very easily... I think they're either going to go one way or the other. They can still tip the balance they can pick up another support to really try to keep Illidan alive because you know he's going to be up there.
I think Tyrande makes sense for that position.
You're right. I would very much like Tyrande. The synergy is available with the hook into stun, Hunter's Mark. Very nice for eliminating a hero, and you have Illidan also getting into the thick of things. The extra healing, additional healing ward. All of these things. It's not a full support style that you would get out of, say, Brightwing or Lily.
But
it could work.
It lends towards that more damage, which they kind of need. And we see Vala picked up 4 LunatiK, and they have one more pick. Is it going to be Hammer? Or do they try to deny Sonya and go with like Sonya ETC as a front line?
They may try to pick up a hero that will set up for Dance if that's their plan.
Huh.
In which case it could be Zeratul or Zagara.
Gazlo.
Something tells me we're not going to see Gazlo, especially on this map.
Believe, Kubi.
Crazy times, though, that we're very much considering the viability of Hammer on this map, of all maps.
We've seen Hammer be banned out here within the last week.
I know. Hammer has picked up quite a bit of steam lately. Previously, she would be almost not considered on this map due to the extensive mobility needed to get between the tributes that spawn. But there's been a lot of value placed into almost a split push style.
Okay. Or, excuse me, ho-ho.
Ho-ho. Reverse it. All right, so I wonder if the Sonya is due to some scouting that LunatiK has done. If they know that Murlocs likes to run this style, is it a steal pick?
Yeah.
How comfortable do they feel with this? How much lockdown is available immediately after the leap? You can't really chain right into Dance. Unless there's some other setup for it. It can happen, but I mean, as long as Murlocs are paying attention and they can get away, you're going to catch one person, but if you leap onto 3, it's likely that the other 2 are going to have time to get out.
But still, leap, Rain of Vengeance, Dance, the threat is there.
Rain might, if the timing is very tight, you could make that work, and that will do a lot to eliminate the team.
Yeah, it really will.
Puts a lot of pressure onto hitting this very precise combo, and that's over 3 heroes on your team.
Yeah, true. But they have a lot of AoE damage to follow up with that, so it's definitely possible, but it's very, like you're saying, Wombo dependent. Like, they're really relying on that. So now that the Barb has been taken away, what do you like as the best pick? We talked about Tyrande.
Yeah, I'm thinking Tyrande makes the most sense. I have to go back to the snipe of Sonya, and if Murlocs was really planning on getting it, did they have a contingency? This might be why it's taking them so much time to make this pick. Of course, we see that timer pool is a bit bugged. It's possible that Stormcraft is bugged itself, and we may not get to see that last pick. That's happened before. All right.
Well, 66 is where it sits. I guess we're going to manually say it's around 40 at least at this point, and they're probably just about out of time. I'm going to let them know in the game.
Yeah, I think Tyrande makes a lot of sense.
Chen was the last pick. And so it bugged out for us, but they're telling us that it's going to be Mr. Stormset himself. So that really does lead us to believe that Sonya was likely the pick they wanted. The Illidan-Sonya combo. So that was a good deny. They're not opting for Tyrande. They want that front line. They want that disruption. And we're going to see Wandering Keg played in this game, I think. It's very popular in Europe.
Yes,
but we haven't seen it.
Mention that.
We haven't seen it here.
It is a very popular pick in Europe. Teams like 3D Max, El Nexo run Chen very frequently. And in terms of what the play style is, it's kind of a... Yes, they use Chen like you... they use Wandering Keg like you mentioned. It's very much like a zony, disruptive style. Get in the front line and just push people that are in the back line way too far away to apply any damage. Then move back to... so you basically dash in, push some people away out of the back line, and then move the people that are too far forward even further forward.
Right.
And the theory is to use that giant space between the team to create a rift.
And then blow up half the fight.
Right,
yeah.
right.
But one of the cool things that we have seen done successfully in competitive play is, especially on this map, we've seen the Chen dive in on a boss and then get in the barrel and push them off the boss circle and steal that Grave Golem. And it's very exciting and a really cool but risky play. So to be able to execute that successfully, it's hard. There's a very fine line between getting yourself killed and accomplishing nothing and stealing a boss and getting through that. So Okay, sounds like someone is glitched. And Kubi?
The other, actually, it's funny that you mentioned this about Chen. We've seen quite a bit of that play with stage dive and ETC.
That's true.
If there's some vision provided for, and especially on this map, with the 2 golem bosses appearing in the upper right and lower left corner for each team, if a team is trying to grab that, and there's just some vision on it, ETC can stage dive in, the global stage dive, knock everyone away, and if there's some follow-up from the rest of the team, you can steal bosses that way as well.
But we've also seen teams stage dive and then just get it obliterated.
Yes.
I forget which
It's a
match
very
it was,
fine line that you walk when you make these types of plays, and the same thing can happen to Chen as well.
Yeah, so it's going to be exciting.
There's potential for both teams to make these types of plays, which, like you said, they're very exciting when they happen. The 0-2 ones were, it was cool. It added a slight extra element to it, but it was difficult to play around.
Yeah.
there are ways to play around.
There's counterplay, and that means
counterplay
it's much more exciting when it actually is successful. So the game's starting up, Kubi. Let us cheers with our new Hearthstone cups.
Oh, look at this. Oh, I'm Ragnaros, way better than Leroy.
Clearly you know nothing.
I'm sorry, when was the last time Leroy was played in a competitive deck?
Listen.
All right, actually, don't even. I'm sure that chat's like, "What are you talking about? This guy plays." It's like, I don't watch that much Hearthstone, so please don't Twitter spam me.
Face Hunter will never die.
Oh boy, actually, I think there is a Face Hunter deck that runs Leroy.
I hope so. All right, well, Cursed Hollow is going to be the first map of the day. This is a best of 3 series. It's ESL Major League Americas, cast by the Kubis and the Jackas.
The Jackas. Man, did you catch those games over the weekend on Sunday? We talked about Kings a little bit, but woo!
Yep, the
exciting stuff.
ESL Go4Heroes Europe.
That's right.
Tempo Storm.
They
stormed Europe. Then they got
kind
crushed.
of.
Well, they did a good job.
They did well.
They did well.
But that's not what we're talking about.
We're talking about 2 beautiful teams. Of course, Murlocs Inc. and LunatiK Esports.
That's right. Murlocs will be spawning on the blue side, and the red, Jake?
The red side is going to be LunatiK Esports, and we gave these guys their beautiful introductions. We can see their pretty faces, so we're going to skip that part, and we're going to talk about this game. Now, looking at the builds, we're seeing Shot of Fury being pretty common on Sonya as a whole. Do you think that there are other options? Do you think that block...
When I was running the very much tanky style Sonya, not saying that this was a competitive way to play, I was sort of messing around with it. Block was what I was grabbing. It puts an incredible amount of stock into Whirlwind. And you grab the Whirlwind upgrades at 13 and 16 to get extra health back, longer, but you have to basically have no stuns available on the other team. There are stuns available, so I think in that case, even if you choose to go Wrath, which we have seen a few times, you're building like you're going into Leap up until 10. Are there other, the extra tankiness from Block, if you're going to go Leap, it's almost, you need the extra utility, you need that extra fury, you need the mana, if you want to call it that. We can pay attention to Chen's build. Of course, we haven't seen all that much Chen, or approximately none since the last patch, at least in NA. If you're watching this from EU, you're probably used to this quite a bit. But as far as I understand it, Regen Master is the grab at level 1.
I mean, when you consider... Ooh, Elephant does lose his life up in the top lane. Getting a little bit too aggressive. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, considering Chen can sit there and recharge his shields, having the extra health regen under those shields makes a big difference for him. So it's a pretty smart pickup, and oh my goodness, the aggression in this middle lane. They're throwing down that healing ward. That's going to keep them relatively healthy and allow them to be very cheeky pushing onto that middle tower. Already taking one.
That's right. We will see teams oftentimes overload pressure onto one of these lanes just to get that experience boost. In this case, it would be LunatiK Esports that is getting the better of that exchange, but there's still some pressure to be had in the top lane for Murlocs Inc.
Yeah, we can see we are approaching the 2-minute mark, and looks like Tassadar is just kind of checking out those giants, making sure nobody's being cheeky. Sonya will be joining him, and they will pick up those giants when they spawn at the 2-minute marker. And level 4 has been picked up.
That's right.
Amplified healing.
Yeah, amplified healing. I think there was one other barrel or chug talent that was grabbed sometimes. More often than not, I say amplified healing. At level 7, it is Brewmaster's Balance. Then, of course, into the Wandering Keg, like we had mentioned already. That's the suspected heroic that will be grabbed. 13 might be Relentless, and then Pressure Point at 16. That might be what we can expect to see. It's a lot of utility, especially with that Wandering Keg, and then mostly sustain. a lot of ways for him to self-heal, and through that amplified healing in Region Master, they do, as far as I recall, they stack, or not stack, but they affect each other.
Well, Chen is actually super low in the bottom lane. He's actually kind of overstaying his welcome. He's going to end up dying to that Rhaegar lunge, and we have this tribute fight happening. Oh. The hook goes out, but it's a little bit too late, and Silal will end up capping the tribute for LunatiK Esports.
A little bit. That was like 5 frames. He was so close to getting that. And that pull would have been very significant. She did have enough mana, of course, to whirlwind away. Still forcing the hand and perhaps extending the fight for that tribute.
I'm actually very curious. We only caught the end of that Chen versus Rhaegar fight, but I'm not too sure how he got that overextended. Falling to a Rhaegar by yourself.
Rhaegar's a beast, man.
He is a beast, but he was. I'm not too sure why he was just taking the tower shots. So we may never know the story of that. But the Bruiser's going to be picked up by Sonya. She can, of course, solo Bruisers as early as level 4, right, Kubis?
This is correct. Whew. Of course, we're a little bit further than that, so no problem. No sweat off her back. Doesn't have any mana, of course, but will be. Oh, they're actually going to forego taking this tribute in the between bottom and mid. Take their boss. And the question is, does Murlocs, do they get wind of this? And do they counter? What's their play?
They're not going to be able to stop this. This boss will be picked up. Easy peasy. Yes, tribute will go 1-1. Malfurion's going to walk in, see what's happening, and they don't even try to turn around and blow him up.
I see you. I see you guys. Do what you're doing. All right. I'm just going to let you do that because that would be pretty crazy for me to jump in there.
Yeah. Little bit risky. Well, the Bruiser's going in, the hook goes out, not going to end up connecting with a single member.
I've noticed a trend for a lot of teams to start heavily pushing the lane in which their side golem will push down. It almost Haunted Minds-esque, and of course we do have a lot of pressure in the form of this rotation. Equinox will find himself overextended and will be falling to LunatiK.
Wow, that's a quick death here on the side of Murlocs. That's something we didn't point out, is that Equinox is once again subbing. I don't think we have Atlanta today.
That's a good point.
He was not here last week as well. So as far as we understand, he's still on the team. But Equinox will be subbing in. Spanker, looking at that tribute, the rotation coming out from LunatiK Esports, looking for this. They want to pick it up. They want to put that advantage 2-3. They can't steal a boss this time, so they're going to be contesting this in full.
Level, something to keep an eye on. If level 10 is grabbed during this potential fight, that's going to spell a lot of trouble for Murlocs. And this might actually spell why Murlocs is not getting so aggressive for this. If that did happen, that would have spelled certain disaster for them.
Yeah, so they just kind of opted to soak all 3 lanes. They do hit 10 first, and we see the heroics picked up. It is going to be the Wandering Keg. And
there is a stage dive as well. Yeah. We mentioned the possibility of that happening. The other talents, or the heroics that were grabbed, other than Putrid Bile, which has been picking up quite a bit more popularity as of late, especially when you consider the extra tankiness that Stitches grabs at level 20. He can be obnoxious in the middle of those teamfights. With the addition of Wandering Keg in there, there's a lot of control. We'll have to see how much precision Chen has in the Wandering Keg. It is something that it's gotten better with recent patches, but it is still difficult to control, especially to do what you want it to do, and that being to split the team up as much as possible.
My favorite thing in the entire game is probably the level 20 talent, where it gets faster and faster and faster as it hits heroic targets. But I don't know if we'll actually end up seeing that this game. Now, he does in fact have the Hardened Shield, if I'm not mistaken, at level 20.
I will venture a guess that he does. Don't quote me on that one, though. Chen is not something that we see too much as of late.
Oh, that's not an NA, that's for sure. Well, the tribute has spawned, and it looks like they are going to be rotating to the top, leaving Caterpillar to defend these giants. So this is going to leave Caterpillar pretty much out of this fight, because he can't safely rotate up immediately. He does a bit of damage. Now he's making his way up, now that he can see these heroes on, halfway through the map. The Clairvoyance goes down, and Spanker is trying to cap this, but the Ivy Slime will throw down that Side Storm just in time.
Hook was almost enough to delay this fight. We do see the Putrid Bile being dropped. It's not going to be enough to save. Silal uses Leap to get in on Stitches. The Leap is going in, and ETC is trying to disrupt long enough here. Matt Timmy has to pop Tranquility, and a lot of members of LunatiK Esports quite low. This fight is too close to call. Spanker is forced to evacuate.
I mean, everything was huge. The Tranquility did so much, so did the Ancestrals. Caterpillar needs to back out, and Spanker will end up falling. Back and forth currently.
The total HP is probably so close between the two teams. Silo pushing forward. Is it going to be enough? They need to eliminate Caterpillar as fast as possible.
Oh, the
and that heal is
they
so
do so
huge.
much with the amplified healing. It's just, and Hospital's going to end up being overextended for that.
Yeah, I think they perhaps were not expecting Caterpillar to get so much HP at once. Of course, we do have that extra enduring growth on Malfurion. When you, like you said, coupled that with amplified healing on Chen, he's going to stay alive for a long time as long as he is able to get his shields up. He has the regen master, so it's going to be super hard to kill him in those team fights. We saw that just there.
Both teams hitting 13 at almost identical points in time. And we're going to actually end up seeing Sprint this game here out of Zebo, Relentless out of Chen. So this double tank in the front line, both having Relentless, is going to be very hard to stop. So with ETC having those stuns, you know, the stuns coming out of Sonya with Leap, we don't have Ravenous this game, but it's going to be very hard to keep those two locked down.
Very good points. In terms of Mercenary camp pressure, we do see that Murlocs has backed up to take their Knights. No intentions to grab their Golem, at least at this point. They still have that experience lead. I think perhaps they are waiting to take a significant team fight to go for that.
Ooh, Caterpillar is all by himself here. He's going to have to use this cake to bring Davala very far forward, but Fault's going to be enough to get her out of that bad position. That is a heroic use for a heroic strafe, doing a ton of damage, and the heroic leap coming out, followed by this stage dive. Now, at the last possible second, we see the Tranquility coming out, followed by that ice block, and a beautiful positioning on this Ravenous Spirit. Going forward, nearly picking off Eyes this time, but he's able to get into that dimensional shift just before he loses his life. But Silo, not going to be so lucky.
And the hook was there as an insurance policy. Murlocs does grab the one kill only. Yes. During that, but that is going to give them considerable leg up for capturing this tribute, and that is going to be the first curse of the game going to Murlocs Inc. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I was a little shocked that Murlocs even went for that fight, having already used the Wandering Keg. That was, you know, pretty much a large chunk of Chen's utility in the middle of those fights. Stitches was able to wrap around the bottom side, get very obnoxious, throwing down that Future Bile, they're able to keep him alive. The Ravenous positioning was on point, and it was used after Leap went down. Things were timed very nicely from Murloc's side of things. Again, like I said, when I saw the way the fight, I was like, I don't think they should take a fight. I think they should take this opportunity, back up, wait for some heroics to come off cooldown, or at least get a slightly better positioning. But they capitalized on what was available to them and made the most of it.
And let's just talk about the power of Tranquility Ice Block. Malf was getting blown up, Tranquility was doing so much work, and it just sits in Ice Block. In this patch, that continues to heal. And through all of this, through their team fight, they're going to get the first keep of the game. But Spanker is a little far forward, forced to use Metamorphosis. Equinox is barely staying alive. I don't think Tranquility is ready just yet. The timer, still another 10 full seconds before that is available. So the heals are coming out. They seem to be enough for the time being. Remember, Life Seed is not on the table.
This is true. The root might actually just be enough. The stage dive going in, only going to get the slow on Caterpillar. Remember, he does have the
okay, Tranquility should be ready. Yes, there's Tranquility. It is now available, so they're not able to save the one member, but Tranquility is doing work right now between Illidan and Equinox. The extra healing they're getting is just keeping them alive. That Ravenous from afar. They're just going to turn this around. And Illidan, can he catch up to Hospital? He does.
If all these kills happen right now, Spanker cannot die here. That's going to be too much. The hook is the healing just in time for Spanker, and they can end the game here.
They're so low. Their mana's low.
Yes, but they do have heals. I don't agree with this.
It's only a 30-second timer. I'm okay with it. I see that.
It's a safer play. I think they could have absolutely ended the game there. All right, so they're going to back up. They're going to take the boss. They do have a boss pushing into the top lane. It is just about dead. Only going to get to the top lane, keep walls. Oh, I thought we just lost some audio there. I was like, oh, jeez, what happened? So like we mentioned, they're going to be grabbing this boss on the bottom lane.
Yeah, that was, I mean, just really well done in this team fight. It's really just knowing their limits. I mean, look how close Illidan was to death in that last engagement. The boss is picked up. He's marching on down.
They spent a lot of effort focusing on Malfurion in that fight, and then he popped Ice Block while he had Tranquility up. That did a lot of work. A lot of work. They were hoping to blow him up, get that healing out of there right quick, as you like to say, right quick, but not the case. That was one of the... that is like a poster child example for why Ice Block is quite good on Malfurion, because you get those auras, you still get your cooldowns coming off of they continue to have their reduction, their timers going while you're in Ice Block. So pretty good.
It's
Pretty
relatively
good. That was a
okay.
good case for it right there.
So here is the barrel doing work once again. That metamorphosis into the backline. They separate the team away from this Vala, and she's going to be using strafe, doing a ton of damage to Spanker. Not going to be able to live through that. The Tranquility is healing the team nice and well, but Zebo has fallen, so their two primary damage dealers are no longer in this fight. Moving forward is LunatiK. They find Mad Timmy. He pops an ice block, but he is surrounded, and he will ultimately fall as well.
I'm not going to say that the barrel usage was bad, but rather the follow-up from the team was not quite there. The team themselves split up, and you want to focus whomever. Like, if you put that wall between the enemy team, you use it to turn the fight into a 2v5 or 3v5, whichever is more appealing depending on which heroes get caught and split. They split up, and then they started chasing too far forward, but then they had really the most that it did was burn time from the Archon. That was more or less, but it wasn't quite all of it. They put a lot of pressure onto Nazebo, who ended up falling very early. I think if the team had capitalized on it a little bit better, split up properly, they could have done a lot more with that fight. And that said, nicely done from LunatiK Gaming to make use of the leap and just to sort of keep their cool during that fight, even though they were quite split up. Focused on the right targets, and they found themselves with a favorable team fight. Not one that hasn't happened for them in the past 2 or 3 fights. So
you have to give Vala a lot of credit there too, because she waited for strafe until the very end of the barrel, and as soon as barrel was gone, strafe went off, because that's Chen's only interrupt, and just nicely done. But the curse was picked up here for LunatiK Esports. They're finally starting to get some aggression here on the map, taking out that middle four. Top four has been taken out for quite a while, and looks like they're a little bit worried about pushing this bottom four out, but nope. They're just waiting to make sure that they have eyes on the enemy team, and as soon as they do, they show to that top lane, they're moving in because they know they are safe.
Good point. This is going to be a little bit of experience, not at all enough to catch them up, but you gotta take what you can get. At this point, they're only down to one structure, that being the keep in the bottom lane on their side. So, what do you want to see LunatiK do in the future to set up more advantageous fights for themselves like we saw in that last one?
I want them to bait out Murlocs Inc. with a sick moo out of ETC. I want to hear that moo. I want to catch them off guard and then get the full leap combo.
But the question is the moo as loud for the players as it is for us?
Oh, that's something we'll never know. The party bush is here, and this might be what they needed. There goes the barrel and the metamorphosis, and right now LunatiK is pretty separated, but a nice heroic leap interrupting that Ravenous Spear, and this strafe is getting so much work done. Sylal staying just barely alive from the heals on his team. He will ultimately end up falling to Illidan, but is it too little too late? It looks like LunatiK's actually going to be able to continue to push forward, and Equinox doesn't really have the mobility to escape. A Rhaegar, the Earthcaster, goes down, and here comes a stage dive. Clown, very low, dashing forward. Can they knock him out? Just barely. They're going to pick up the kill.
Nice follow-ups there from LunatiK Gaming. I liked the use of Sonya, the point in which she leaped in to isolate a target, even while the barrel was going off. Nicely done. They kept her alive for a long time. She did end up falling, but the utility from the damage done through the whirlwind was quite nice. And just the focus from LunatiK was there. And once again, the barrel was nice, but not really doing as much work as you would think.
Yeah, and that leap, I mean, Ravenous is such a big threat. When you stop that, I mean, that's the power of leap. So I like the Sonya play in general, but I agree with you. The barrel has been pretty lackluster so far. It's not necessarily bad. I'm not calling out the barrel play as bad. It's just the use as a team of the barrel.
Yeah, I think that more has to do with it. And then you start to consider, well, what other heroes could they have grabbed in this situation and compare to the effectiveness that Chen had or how the team is playing around it. And if the synergy isn't quite there, they're so close, but perhaps they need to just work with it a little bit more to really maximize the effectiveness of splitting those teams apart.
Well, we can see this very safe play as Lex Luthor and Hospital will be hearthing back to clean up the bottom wave. They know the power of catapults, and they want to clean those up. They've taken some Merc camps. I lied. They're going to take Merc camps. There are no Merc camps on the map. Oh, wait, yeah, there is one. I thought I was
actually going to be skipping over their Giants, which is probably the obvious play, at least from Murloc's perspective. They are taking the aggressive play in that going for Murloc's boss on their side. They do have to spend some focus going, but yes, they have caught wind of this. They figure, okay, they would have taken those Giants by now. And at this point, they have to be going for our boss. We're going to just let the keep clean it
The
up.
barrel?
And
The
they're
barrel?
going in for it. Is the barrel going to be the playmaker here?
Oh, there it is, and it will potentially steal this boss. They're trying very hard to keep them
Oh,
off,
he
and they're
got it!
diving on, but they did ultimately get the barrel. The ancestral healing is going to do a lot. Ego will, oh, the heal comes off, and the shields are there as well. How is Ego still alive? He does ultimately fall to that hook. Silal in the front line, standing in the bile. That's not something you want to be in for a while, and he will fall. Caterpillar gonna chase Ivy Slime.
All right, so I was talking about barrel play.
That was it.
That was it. We actually, it's funny that we brought that up before the actual match had started. The potential for that to happen, and that's exactly what did. Now they're making their move. They have this golem to push behind. Murlocs, of course, having pushed everyone off of that tribute.
Kubi, would you say this is the March of Murloc?
I'm not giving you that one. Sorry. Nope. They're marching. They're making it work. But it's not quite the March of the Murlocs. Not until they play Murky.
Oh, no.
You got to
okay.
see that Murky play.
Okay.
But
GG, game one, gonna be going.
Nicely executed play for Murlocs right at the end there. Stealing that boss. They caught wind of the position. Said, oh, you know, they've been pretty quiet for the last 30 seconds or so. They didn't end up capturing the giant camp. That tipped off. Murlocs said, okay, we're looking at a situation. They're taking the golem. What can we do about it? Hopped in right at the last second. Used the barrel. They were just able to push. It had it been even another second, they wouldn't have been able to. And having shoved them off, they got a nice start to the team fight and cleaned it up, pushed for the win. Nicely done.
Both teams played incredibly well. You got to give a lot of credit to LunatiK. They were in a bad spot, and they brought it back through two really convincing team fights they took.
They did.
But the Panda delivered at that boss. So GG. 1-0 advantage here for Murlocs Inc. in this best of 3 series. Kubi, how's your cat?
I don't know what she's looking at. It scares me. This cat has the leap potential. Should have called her Sonya.
Oh.
Well,
That'd be excitable. On that note, I think we're going to throw it a quick commercial break.
Sounds good.
Get ready for our second game today.
That's right.
Figure out what map we're going to be going to. It is now the choice here of LunatiK Esports. Where will they bring us? Well, we'll let you know in just a few minutes. All right, guys, welcome back here to the ESL Major League. I am Solid Jake.
And I'm Kubi.
And this is Kubi's Kitty. And we're going into Game 2 between Murlocs, Inc. We're currently up 1-0 and LunatiK.
Yes. It's a very interesting way. Fred's like, wait, what? Where's LunatiK? All right. Yes, absolutely right. And what map are we going to? We're going back to Cursed Hollow.
Cursed Hollow, the salty runbacks in the draft is ready.
Oh, look at that. These guys are quick.
And Asmodean, once again, LunatiK says, we don't want any of that nonsense.
It's a strategy that requires very specific counterplay that's difficult to pull off. And frankly, some teams consider it to be downright annoying to play against.
Yep, can't.
Rather, I mean, he's the one hero that can play this style. That being, if you guys aren't familiar, it's you pick up the talent for the Globe of Annihilation, Taste for Blood at level 1, which every time you kill a creep, or it's actually just any kills, it powers up the globe permanently for the rest of the game. So if they know that the game's going to go on a long time and they can farm those creep waves well enough, you're going to have a long distance AoE that does quite a bit of damage. And it's difficult to play around. I can understand completely why LunatiK might ban this out if they don't like playing against it. Like I said, he's the only one who plays like that, so you just get rid of the problem entirely.
Yeah. Very similar draft, though, because they're once again bending out that Uther and saying, hey, take Rhaegar again. We don't care. Take him. He's yours. And they're saying, no. We don't need Rhaegar. So does Murlocs. Take Rhaegar Melf. Is that the meta?
That could be a dirty mind game there from Murlocs if that is the case. Now, Nazeebo, nothing to sneeze at. Quite the strong damage dealer in this meta. We saw quite a few team fights turn around simply from that Ravenous Spirit placing in that last game.
All right, ETC and Illidan. Illidan is probably one of the most sought after assassins in the game right now. It's weird how much the meta has shifted in the last couple of weeks, and ETC is the cream of the crop when it comes to the cow life. He is the top moo.
Is he the Macho Man Randy Savage?
Nope.
Macho Man Randy Savage is the cream of the crop.
Is he?
Oh, he doesn't know the reference. You're supposed to know these internet references, man. Ah, Chat knows. Chat knows. They know.
I'm sorry.
All right. LunatiK now opting to grab whom? We'll have to wait and find out. What do you like to see with Nazeebo these days?
That's nice. That's nice. But I like the idea of Diablo a lot with Zebo. And Malpha's always had a lot of synergy with Zebo. We saw that in the last game. The Zombie Wall Roots. That's good too. But they're going for double healer. They're going for that big pickup, and it's a bold play. Now, I think this will force Brightwing Tassadar because they want to have the sustain for Illidan. But when it comes to the Zebo, well, they need. I think they'll probably end up grabbing Diablo, Vala if they're capable.
My question is, what is it about Lili? I mean, overall, Lili's going to have quite a bit higher healing numbers. What is it about, especially from what you see so far from LunatiK? Why not Lili?
I guess you make a good point, and there's nothing that doesn't mean not Lili. And actually, when you consider Illidan, Lili actually works very well. Illidan needs very little crowd control to help him. He just needs heals to stay alive. And typically, the reason that's why we see other healers like Brightwing and stuff, because they have the poly to stop something that's very aggressive in the front line. On the other side, you can look at the Ravenous as like this threat, and then Brightwing offers opportunity to stun that. But now that we see ETC Diablo, Lili's starting to make a lot of sense.
I like this Diablo pickup. The big draw for grabbing Diablo here is to immediately counter Nazeebo.
Apocalypse, man.
There's nowhere you can put that Ravenous Spirit as long as Diablo saves APOC. You can throw it down to interrupt it. The second thing is we've seen a lot of very convincing Diablo Illidan play in the past, and it has done work. It looks very scary to deal with. Now, we haven't seen it run with ETC in the form of double support. And this also forces LunatiK to go Stitches in a situation where they may not have wanted to. Because you yourself even mentioned, oh, I like Diablo here.
Oh, he's going to go. Yeah, they have to go Stitches now. But
possibly not. I don't know how comfortable they are with Muradin. He has dropped a lot in the pseudo warrior tier list.
Yeah, but the Hook and Bile are going to get a lot of effectiveness, especially against Illidan.
This is true.
I think more so than what Illidan would provide in this kind of composition. Especially when you consider that you can Hook Root, Hook Totem, Hook Zombie Wall. There's a lot of nice complements there. The problem is, are they going to be able to get their target, being Vala right now, with that Hook? It's going to be hard to kill any of those other
Yes, it
heroes.
is.
And we don't know what their 5th is going to be, but I think it's going to be a Blink Heal Brightwing, based on what we've seen. Now, like you said, Lily can be very good. And if they don't have any stuns with these next 2 picks, yeah, it's going to make a lot of sense to grab Lily, because if they can't stop the Jugs of Annihilation, oh my god, 1,000 Cups,
Yes.
then it's quite strong. Stitches presently would have to pick up Pulverize. Hook's great, sure, but it would be forced into Pulverize at 16 to stop those Cups.
Now they have their choice of damage here, and they need damage. Tyranda's an option with the Hunter's Mark. Still,
They got double support. Tyrande doesn't make a lot of sense.
you need
They need Tychus or Hammer, I think.
Hammer. It's nice that they've sort of bullied LunatiK into grabbing Hammer, because we had mentioned the mobility issues in the last draft. Tychus has fallen off quite a bit. How do you feel about Jaina?
Probably my 3rd pick. I just think in general Hammer is very strong on this map, even if you can't get to those tributes. Just the amount of zoning you can provide, especially with Hover Siege. Just the current state of Hammer is very good, especially with an Illidan, and you have that knockback. The Concussive Blast is very crucial to disengaging, where you have this very strong engage line in the front. So I think Barricade with Concussive Blast could end up maybe being something that they can really use to disengage some of these fights. But if we're talking disengage, then you got to consider Zeratul too. So Zeratul is very powerful on this map. He can just flat out change fights. I just don't know that they currently have the damage to follow up where Zeratul would be worth it.
I think those are good points. They showed Sonya in the past, but I wonder how much of the Sonya pick was influenced.
Ooh, did not expect the
By
False Father.
Nazeeba. Yes, that is a hero that we do not see played very often, especially since this last patch. He just no longer has Rewind at 13. He has some changes to his overall build, but more or less he's less bursty, especially considering what else is on his team. I wonder what the playstyle is going to be for Falstad here. And you were correct on the Brightwing pick.
Yeah, so they're telling us last pick is Brightwing if it bugs out against the Stormcraft. RIP! We're going to be seeing Brightwing as the final pick, so that means ETC Diablo double tank with Illidan. Very tanky and evasion-y, if you will. Brightwing support should be a Blink Heal Cleanse style. The only thing they really have to worry about... Cleanse could actually be sacrificed very easily here. But the thing about Cleanse that's very good is you can cleanse the hooks. If they say, no, we're going to get Gust of Healing or Regenerative Rains, I wouldn't be alarmed. This is like one of the few instances where you can actually throw that cleanse away. But we're going to find out.
Is there going to be enough sustain for Murlocs? That's the question. And is there enough damage for LunatiK in these 2 drafts from both these teams? Very opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how they approach and how they're going to approach those team fights.
Well, there's going to be a lot of weight on getting big hooks. It's going to be very hard to kill this entire team because the double tanks, the Illidan, and likely a Blink Heal Brightwing, they're pretty slippery. They're pretty slippery.
Good points.
That Vala is going to be that sweet fishy that he's trying to catch.
That's very difficult, especially if the vault is saved, and it is very possible to react to that vault. I mean, the hook and vault away. There are some even iframes on it for good measure, for extra fun for Stitches. Now, I imagine he will go Pulverize at 16.
Yes.
To get that extra stun potential. We've seen that quite a bit in the past.
Too many big targets, too many targets that are hard to hit to like really want to pick up that fishing hook, and the Pulverize has that guaranteed success of when you hit the target, well, they're going to get stunned. And it can interrupt strafe, has a lot of good applications. And Cursed Hollow, once again, back to back. All right, well, Cubus Maximus. Let us introduce our teams with LunatiK in the blue. This game, that's going to be Ego, Lex Luthor, Psylol, Ivy Slime, and Hospital.
And on the red side, for Murlocs Inc., we have Caterpillar, Spanker, Mad Timmy, Clown, and Equinox.
Caterpillar, looking for that Hearth life. He decides he's too good for this as he vanishes and goes back. Slowly walking. I'm not sure what he's getting at here, but we're going to analyze it. He made it.
We've tasked the teams to come up with cheeky shenanigans in the beginning. Not seeing any of it here. A little disappointed.
That was just awkward.
Well, disappointed.
Caterpillar just making sure his Hearthstone's still working, making sure he hasn't set it to like Ironforge or something, which would be terrible because who goes to Ironforge nowadays? That's just weird. All right, Psylol, Ego, and Lex Luthor in this middle lane. Bottom lane, we got the trio of Clown, Equinox, and Mad Timmy.
Right, more of a standard rotation, 2 DPS and a healer. Also quite standard to see the 2 warriors in the top lane. It's more or less the teams kind of throw them up there. So you guys can soak very safely. It's difficult to gank these 2 heroes, so we're going to put them the furthest away from the rest of the team. And as you mentioned, LunatiK has a heavy presence in mid. Normally it's 1-1-3. Right, both teams opt to sort of duke out their 3v3 in the bottom lane. They were showing a good bit of presence in mid, now have chosen to rotate down to either mitigate or just try to pick up some kills.
Alright, so let's keep our eyes on this boss of this game. He's picked up Power Throw. That's the increased range of the hammer by 40% and the slow duration increased by 25%.
I would guess the way that he's being played by the majority of teams that are even giving him the chance in scrims or competitive play. And Clown diving in a little bit. Not going to overextend, of course. Illidan always looking for those moments to get in there and really try to put the pressure in. As you can see, with the evasion, he can get away with quite a bit. All right, as I was saying, for Falstad, nope. Equinox, under pressure, dashes away from the Falstad rotation.
Yeah, that was...
have that fly. Quite a bit of mobility available to Falstad as part of his kit. Anyway, one more time. Here we go. You ready? Falstad. A lot of teams, I suspect, are still going for the very burst style. Like, we can see the power thrower already. Level 4 is probably going to be gathering power. 7. Sometimes we see the secret weapon, which is the 80% increased attack damage while the hammer is out. Not the case here. Okay, so this...
Charged up!
Charged up. That's extra two charges to the lightning rod. This might point towards a more auto attack style Falstad. We'll have to pay attention.
Yeah, it could definitely be...
There is a shield talent available to him at level 13. For every time he strikes with the lightning rod, he gets 5% of his HP back in shields, which can make him quite a bit more difficult to kill than you would expect for a ranged assassin.
Alright, well, we did see Brightwing immediately phase shift onto Illidan as soon as the giant spawn at the 2-minute mark. I believe one bribe stack was used there, and then Illidan blew up the other giant. So getting some very early mercs, but Clown's got to make sure he doesn't get caught by that root, and he will get out of the root and totem with some relative ease, but Falstad is going to be able to capture this first tribute of the game as the rotation was going to be just a little bit late by Equinox, applying some damage to Ivy Slime, but all those heals coming out from Rhaegar and Malfurion, it will be more than enough. Diablo presently soaking this middle lane in the middle. Who would have thought? Uncontested.
That's a good point. Murlocs had opted to throw a bit less pressure onto that tribute in favor of soaking experience in the middle lane. Always a decision the teams need to make. How are they going to approach those tributes as they spawn? Do we forego a little bit of experience? Because if we want to over-represent compared to the other team, we are going to have to pull a hero out of lane for some time. As you can see, there is a slight experience lead for Murlocs because of the decisions that they made to over-represent on the LunatiK side of things.
And they take that first tower. I mean, they're just applying so much aggression with those early giants they were able to pick up, making sure they maximize the value available, and did a nice job there. We see the Hearth came out of Falstad, who's made his way back to the middle lane, and Illidan is going to take some camps here by himself. Now that's kind of the power of heroes like Illidan and Sonya. They can very easily solo camps. It takes them a little while to do it, but as long as they're unnoticed, they're not required to be, in lane. They can jungle very effectively.
Good points. They have quite a bit of lifesteal available on their base kits that allow them to pull these types of shenanigans off, if you want to call them that. We have level 7 for both teams. We can talk about some of the more interesting talents picked up. Diablo, I'm seeing battle momentum. Do you think this means lightning breath?
It can go both ways.
But I think because of the Nazebo,
right,
actually, it's very much unlikely. Still, though, this was the common grab for what Diablo play. Little of it we did see previously. Equinox has been caught by a root here from Ego. Not going to be of any consequence. Sometimes we would see the 150 souls maximum for Diablo, that level 7. That increases his survivability in general.
Yeah, and it gives them more health. For gem with the level 1 talent Soul Feast because you have a larger skull count, and it just allows you to respawn more frequently once you have that cap. Because typically hitting 100 is very easy. As long as you're playing properly and not dying, you're going to be sitting at 100 for a long time. But Battle Momentum provides that, like you said, that utility of just more heroics, more everything. And if you can, dash and flip more often, well, guess what? You're wrecking more face.
Good points. And we do see the APOC grabbed for Diablo at level 10. The heroics are available.
Sizable lead here for Murlocs. They have a full level advantage right now, and this allows them to get a little bit cheeky.
Yes, so we can see that in the form of them taking the Knights away from LunatiK Gaming on their side of the map.
So we were talking about Brightwing, and I said we probably wouldn't see Cleanse. Well, that's the case. We're seeing Gust of Healing. We're seeing Blink Heal picked up.
Almost full healing style.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I expected. And this style is all but extinct over the last several months even, because of how important it is to have the ability to get your allies out of those situations with Cleanse. And we just don't see Gust of Healing. We see people even going Cleanse with Emerald Wind sometimes. But I'm excited to see this because Brightwing gets so much utility, so much healing with this kind of style. And Spanker gonna get hooked. Does he have the knockback available? Yeah, he's gonna be just fine. Backing it up. If he can tap the well.
Pay attention for Gust of Winds. That has been picked up from Falstad. See if it has any effect in this fight. No, it looks as though LunatiK Gaming is going to sneak away. What did I call it?
You called it Gust of Winds, but
Gust of Winds, yeah, right. That would be the level 7 talent picked up from Brightwing. I probably saw it.
Gust of Healing. It's close.
Close. All right, you know what,
Jake?
Close. You know what, Jake?
Mighty Ducks has been picked up. I don't know how I didn't notice that, and I'm so excited because we are going to be on the ice tonight. We are going to be beautiful little kids playing hockey, and that's going to be awesome because Mighty Ducks come out and they just knock you far away. If we see the level 20 talent picked up from Mighty Ducks, well, you're going to hear me quacking.
You're going to hear me. I'm looking forward to that. Something tells me that might not be the case. We'll have to pay attention and see. I'm noticing a lot of Wombo-ish potential. Hold on, is Caterpillar going to be? No, he's going to get out just fine. There is quite a bit of Wombo potential available on the Murloc side of things. They have APOC, and if there's a situation where 3 people are clumped in a small area, normally if the APOC goes down, unless you're tied up with some other kind of stun, you should be able to walk off of it. However, APOC can go down, Rain of Vengeance.
You just mentioned
and Mosh Pit.
Wombo, and we see Sticky Flare. But continue.
That is another thing that can feed into that. So there is quite a bit of potential to lock down many heroes. APOC will always get some value in just interrupting Ravenous Spirit. But there is potential for a lot more.
Look at this. They got the slow and shadow charge. They got Sticky Flare, which is the level 13 talent Brightwing that slows by 30% for 3 seconds. Is going to be the flip here, and is that enough to save him? He uses a Putrid Bio, but he's going to be body blocked very nicely by the Alien Diablo, and that's going to be a kill on Hospital, losing his life. Meanwhile, the rest of the team is going to be able to pick up this boss on the bottom left side. They're going to realize they're a little bit too little too late, rotate up and take the boss themselves. Full, almost 2 level advantage right now from Murlocs Inc. And this Wombo style that you're talking about, I'm excited to see it, pan out.
And the only thing that I can see interrupting or dealing with this is Mighty Gust. It's Mighty Gust. And there's a lot. Jake's like throwing his hands up at the screen over here.
Frost Shot. It's so many slows.
Yeah, there's Frost Shot. There's Face Melt. Enemies hit are slowed by 80%, which fades over 2 seconds. Level 13 talent picked up for ETC. Not Uber Rockstar, which is a 20% movement speed bonus to any of the abilities used by ETC.
Right.
So many. Are they all slows? No, everything except Illidan. So many slows that can be stacked and thrown down onto him.
You think about Illidan, what does he love more? What is he?
Lots of slows.
Nothing more than slows, right?
Executioners? No, wait. Vala could. Vala could, but you would expect an auto attack build.
She's gonna.
I don't know. There's not a lot of bonuses to the auto attack. And once again, Hospital has been catching himself out of position. He does get the Ancestral Healing going down.
Spanker is so far out of position, but that is a massive Apocalypse followed by the Dance and Rain of Vengeance, and that Wombo we talked about, it is real. Caterpillar gonna end up falling. Ivy Slime is next on the menu, and Matt Temmie, can he get into a weird position and then blink away? Doesn't look like he has enough cooldown. No, he's too far away from his teammates.
No mana. That's definitely going to be the end of that.
He's gonna try to make... Dimensional shift now that the hook's been used?
Phase shift?
Phase
He may not have enough cooldown. I think he might have used it to get into that fight. He's really just
Oh,
stalling
blink.
time. Oh, no, you've got to be kidding me. Hospital has got to be so upset right now with that. However, he is the only member left on his team
All right.
that is alive.
The fact that phase shift was held. Still, it's off cooldown now.
Yeah.
The Hearth is here. Yes, he's just going to be able to go back, get full health, full mana, not even full if he doesn't want it, and just to phase shift back in. False Head flying in, but guess what? So is Brightwing. This is a 3v3, but Equinox is very low on mana. Heroics, we do have Metamorphosis still available, and we're going to have to see it used here if they want to take this fight.
I cannot believe they stalled long enough, and the Mighty Gust goes down to shove quite a few members of Murlocs Inc. away, and the Putrid Bile is going to stall quite a bit, but is it going to allow them to get enough damage to turn this team fight around?
Yeah,
Very close. The teams are posturing for position over this tribute. What's going to be the initiation? There's so many Heroics down on both sides of the team. No APOC, which you might expect to see the initiation on the Murloc side of things. Lex Uther jumping in. Hospital.
Right. Ravenous just came off cooldown. That's a big part of this. Can we get a big Ravenous? Hospital is getting very low. The Ancestral just a little too late. That Metamorphosis going on in. Ivy Slime is going to end up falling, and they have to just full out retreat right now.
I think the level deficit played a very large role in that. Also, the Ancestral Healing not quite hitting the mark. That would have changed the fight considerably in their favor. Still, though, so much more damage available on the Murloc side of the fight.
Oh, the Diablo just going in with the Shadow Charge, flipping Sile all over. That's going to trigger Clown to go in, but the Ancestral is just there in time to keep him alive. He's hearthing. He wants that mana. He doesn't care about his health, but he gets disrupted.
Being able to put that pressure on, even in a situation where it's not a full team fight and he baits out. I'm not going to say bait out. He just has to use it to keep Falstad alive. That's always a huge win. There's still that talent difference that is playing a huge role in these teamfights. Hospital going quite a bit forward with that Putrid Bile, finding himself into a lot of trouble now. Spanker moving forward with the mosh pit. It's going to be enough to get the kill? Not at all.
Where's the blink heal? Oh, not going to be there in time. We can see Matt Timmy is just about out of mana, unable to get the heals there. Just looking at the healing, he's sitting at 45k with this aggressive Gust of Healing blink heal style, keeping that team alive very well. But once he ran out of mana, well, that was the end of that push.
Absolutely. Both tanks traded out for each team. Of course, Diablo still available to be a frontliner. This is a good opportunity. Murlocs, now if they want to back up and stop the aggression, what does LunatiK Gaming do to bring themselves back into this game?
They need to get those big Ravenous, and it's hard to bait out an Apocalypse to be able to do that, but the Ravenous has actually done almost nothing in these fights at this point in time, and their team is so reliant on that damage. Falsight didn't go with Hinterland's Blast, so they only have the knockback, and then they have the Putrid Bile for sustained damage, but when it comes to just sheer burst to knock them down, Brightwing is keeping everyone alive until she runs out of mana, and it's just, they're getting no kills. It's 3 kills to 8. 3 isn't terrible, but one of those kills was actually just, if I'm not mistaken, just kind of given to them, donated early in the game.
Okay, so we're looking at a problem in team fighting. It's going to be very difficult for them to really sway. We see quite the party bush. They're expecting LunatiK to perhaps go to pick up this kill on the boss that is spawning in about 7 seconds. They do get the jump on them, not quite enough to pin them between the walls of the tight corridor here. Spanker perhaps a little bit too far forward.
I announce a fanfare, and they actually get out of the way in time. I think my trumpets alarmed them a little bit too much. So I'm sorry, Murlocs Inc., your party bush failed, but you're going to be able to start on this boss if you so please. The Clairvoyants will reveal their position, and they're not going to give this up for nothing. Now, one thing you have to be very careful about when you take a boss like this, the False Head can come down here, Mighty Gust you off, and then dash up the wall to steal the boss. Very risky thing to do. Ego using that Ice Block, and the Mighty Gust there used to disengage, but the Metamorphosis is the follow-up, and Ego is forced to get hit by both the Tranquility and that, but the dance coming out of Spanker seems like it might be a little bit too much. They managed to almost pick up a kill. Yes, there it is. Rhaegar is going to fall, and Brightwing's heals are just enough to keep this team alive.
Caterpillar probably not the target the Hospital was looking for with the hook. And it's just becoming an issue of damage. The sustain is there as long as they can first heal enough, but the output damage, the consistency over time from Murlocs is so high, and they're able to pick up a kill, and Mad Timmy is absolutely a good target. They were able to apply enough stuns, get the pick off, a 1-for-1 trade. Anytime you're down in levels, picking up these trades is a nice way. Yes, it's very good experience boost. You're getting so much more experience for those kills in the enemy team.
Oh no. Equinox. Very, very risky position, just barely dodges that hook. And, well, nicely done staying alive there. We actually do see Fishing Hook was picked up instead of Pulverize in this game. So that's why they're looking for those hooks. They think that's their one way of getting back in this game, and after seeing that last hook on Brightwing, it put them in a decent position, and I think they're right.
We're going to see LunatiK aiming. They're going to pick up their Golem, and I think there will probably be a Golem trade for both teams. I don't see why Murlocs wouldn't go for theirs in this particular situation. They are down a hero. Still, it would require quite a bit of effort for LunatiK aiming to traverse across the map to punish them for it. I don't think it's going to happen. There is some mobility in the form of Falstad. Crazy as it would be to see a flyover.
It should be on cooldown anyways, because they just lose the boss. So Brightwing face shifting in.
Good point, good point.
Going to just be going onto that boss. They're going to be there in time in this next turn we got spawn. It is Curse Point here for LunatiK, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to get to that because that hospital is getting very low, but the Ancestral will keep him alive. The Blink heals and the Gust of Healing, healing Spanker up the best they can before he can get back into that front line. All Apocalypse just came off cooldown, and is it going to be used to combo here? Doesn't look like they want to use it just yet. They're holding on to it. There goes the Rain of Vengeance. They're going to be able to pick up both Diablo Stitches and Malfurion with the Ravenous Spirit coming out. Gonna kill Caterpillar. Oh, the Apocalypse is there just in time.
So much effective use of the tight corridors from both teams. It makes a lot of sense to go Putrid Bile, even if it wasn't already, I guess, a common pickup in the meta. However, the positioning that Diablo has available to him in terms of flipping enemies over. Yes, Stitches found himself in a nice spot to use Putrid Bile. However, he was in the middle of the enemy team. Diablo flips him out. Then he gets stunned, pushed back. Where's the effectiveness of Putrid Bile if you can't get in the middle of the enemy team? It's not there. And then when they tried to chase a little bit further to pick up the kill on ETC, Rain of Vengeance goes down, hits 3 people. What do they have left? Ravenous Spirit, APOC. Everything was saved nicely, used. The positions were all very strong for Murlocs Inc., and we find themselves taking a very convincing team fight to end the game.
Kubi, I gotta say, I'm really sad I didn't get to Quack.
There was no quacking.
We
didn't even get to find out if he was going to grab Quack. That's the name of the level 20 upgrade, apparently. Quack.
Yeah.
Now, why do you call it Mighty Ducks again?
Well, it's called Mighty Gust. And he's a bird.
I see.
So I call it Mighty Ducks.
Mighty Ducks.
Because it helped me remember that it was called Mighty Gust. So I started calling it Mighty Ducks. And, well, the Mighty Ducks is such a great film that I thought I would just kind of...
Is that in your top 10 films of all time?
It might be.
Might be? Top 5?
It's probably. It's in top 15.
Okay. All right.
Top 15.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I can
the
judge,
trilogy as a whole.
I can judge someone's character by how far they put Mighty Ducks in their top 10.
Hey, Charlie can skate really well.
I did.
As a kid, I wished I could skate on ice like that, but I would always fall on my face. I was not graceful on the ice, but on pavement, the rollerblades, I was all about that life. I was one of those kids. I played a lot of hockey growing up, so I loved Mighty Ducks. Now,
I'm not a very good Northeastern person. I played no hockey.
Oh, well, it's sad.
And if I was Canadian, I would be shunned.
Yeah, but you should be shunned either way.
Okay, all right, that seems very unfair.
2-0 victory here for Murlocs Inc. Taking themselves from that. If we look at the standings, they are at the bottom, so that's going to bump them up a little bit.
Yes,
Nicely done at taking a victory over LunatiK, who have just entered the league, who are now 0-2. Of course, these points aren't reflecting the results after tonight. This is all results prior to today's games. And Kubus Maximus, what do we got going on next?
What do we have next? We have Barrel Boys versus Murlocs Inc., the boys you just saw in the back-to-back, the doubleheader.
Oh, my
The
goodness.
marathon.
The marathon. The 4 to 6 games is now a marathon.
Hey, man.
It's a lot of work.
These are high-stress games. It takes a lot out of these guys. So I think what we will end up having to do here is we'll go for a 5-minute break. We'll find out if Barrel Boys are available. I assume time-wise, yes, it is just 15 past 9 at the moment. So they're not slated to play until 10 p.m. If they're available, we can start the series sooner. So we'll take a 5-minute break, figure out that information for you guys, and we'll let you know if we're going to be playing our next series right away or if we're going to go and take maybe a 40-minute break or so. So guys, stick around. We'll be back in just a few.